This is the first episode of Conversation with Shaunak, co-founder and CEO of SnackMagic. This will be a recurring monthly kind of conversation where we see what's going on, all things SnackMagic, the changes to the business from raising capital to expanding the product offering. Today we'll be speaking about raising capital. I think just to get started, where is SnackMagic? Where is the business right now?
We launched SnackMagic 2020 April. We scaled it up from $0 in revenue to 20 million in annual run rate in 8 months. So by December of 2020, we were doing like 20 million annual run rate. And then since then, we've been growing like steadily month over month. And we just announced our Series A last week publicly. And look forward to speaking about how we went through the process.
How did you, go about the fundraising? What was your strategy? When did you start thinking about raising funds? When did you know that it was SnackMagic's time?
Like we as a business, we are 8 years old. Before SnackMagic, it was Stadium. We raised only very little bit of money, institutional money for Stadium. And that was a very conscious choice because we wanted to build a profitable business. And the way the business was structured wasn't that capital intensive. So we did it for a good 7 years. We did take in some institutional money, but only from our customers. But then with SnackMagic, when we launched SnackMagic, it's just like the total addressable market for SnackMagic. It's so large. Like we saw it right off the bat. When we launched SnackMagic, we went from just US focused to worldwide in less than 8 months. And because of that, we felt taking in some capital early 2021 would be a good move. It'll just help us scale even faster than we are scaling. And we have a very clear direction on where we're going to take SnackMagic. So that's why we said, given the growth we've experienced, given what we want to do, we feel we can execute much faster if we could align with a partner who could help us scale the business. So I think more than the money, I think we were already profitable back in December 2020, straight after 8 months. But the main reason for taking in money was we thought this is our first time scaling a business this quickly. And if we could align with people who've actually scaled businesses in the past, we could learn so much faster. So I think the number one reason why we decided to take in money was to accelerate our learning. And that's the reason we went through the process and ended up closing our Series A.
For other businesses that think that they might be accelerating or are accelerating, when is the right time to raise funds or not the right time?
Our MO has always been since day one, we want to create a business, not necessarily a startup, right? Like we want to create a business that has revenues, profits, losses, good unit economics. So I think those are the basics which we wanted to focus on first and foremost, right? Without that, raising any kind of capital, it's going to be a waste of an effort. And even if someone invests, it's not the right time for someone to invest just because you haven't proven the very basics of it becoming a good business. But you do want to have a very good grasp on your scaling strategy and also your unit economics. Like without strong unit economics, I think it's going to be very hard to raise institutional money these days, especially for a business like ours, which is a little bit of e-commerce, a little bit of marketplace-like business, So I think the unit economics have to be profitable. And then I think as long as you have that, I think it makes sense to scale up the business, which over time would reduce your losses if you had any.
You spoke with the other team members at SnackMagic. You say, now's the time, let's accelerate. Let's 10x, 20x in 2021. Let's raise some capital. What did you do?
End of December 2020. This was Manik, my co-founder, Denise, and a few others. We said, we've had solid growth. The timing is right, and we want to take this to the next level. Why don't we actually do the fundraising process, go through the process? This is our first time raising institutional money, like Series A. We started the process seriously first week of January. We put together a deck at a very high level. We said, what are the things we want to talk about? What is SnackMagic? What is Stadium? What is our strength as a business? What's our overall model? And then we said we put a very high level outline of what we were thinking in terms of the investor deck. And we said, fine, we'll have a deck, no question, it'll be solid with very solid traction and product market fit. But then I think one thing that we started thinking about is, right, like how can we actually create a splash? Many founders have this same strategy where everybody creates a deck and they start approaching investors and they set up meetings. We said we want to run this process very, very efficiently because I personally, I enjoy running a business and the business side of things. I don't enjoy the fundraising side as much. So just for my own sake, I wanted the process to be very efficient. And we said, yeah, how do we create a splash? So I think in one of our ideation sessions, I think we got this idea where what if we create a video series on how we launch SnackMagic from idea to first order in 3 weeks and then scaling it up in 8 months.
You get a deck created first week of January. What else is your approach? How are you guys going to stand out and really get the right connections and the right VCERM to back the project?
We have a product market fit like no one else, very few people. We know our unit economics are very, very strong. And above everything, we are profitable. So I don't think we had to worry about anything there. I think now the question was just getting attention, right? And we were in one of our ideation sessions. This is with the internal team. We said, what if many people, I think the most common question we were getting from our customers, from our vendors, from any investors was, how did you do it? How do you launch SnackMagic in such a short period of time? And that's when it clicked, where we said, what if we create a video series where we go through, from the idea of SnackMagic to the pivot and then launching it and then scaling it in 8 months. So we said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It can be for investors, but we can also use that video series to recruit people. People will understand our culture and how we do things. And that's when, Greg, we had that conversation and we said, let's do this as an 8-part series. And yeah, we used that as a way to really create that splash, put our name out there, share with the world how we actually did build SnackMagic in such a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that, like a video series like that can pay dividends on just, reinforcing the culture. We speak with every team member, we get different perspectives. And from, 30, 40 conversations I had, I learned so much about the culture and kind of the approach to business. The way that everyone at SnackMagic thinks.
Why we wanted someone to invest in the business, but not just the numbers, right? The numbers we are very strong at the number side, but we wanted someone who appreciates our culture and understands how we work. That was very, very important to us, which is why we thought the video series would do justice to that.
You wanted, a firm that was going to appreciate the culture and appreciate the manpower and woman power, the full team that you've essentially fostered. So how did the conversations go with VC firms and how did you decide, Craft was the right fit?
It was a list of about 25 or so firms, mostly senior people at these firms, either principals or partners. And our main criteria for raising capital wasn't capital. It was to learn from people who had run businesses. We were expanding internationally very quickly, so if they had international connections, that would be a big plus. So based on those criteria, we had our short list of firms. We started the process second week of January. We had meetings teed up, first meetings teed up with senior people at all these firms. Third week of January, I'd say. I want to say 20 firms. Pretty much everybody we reached out to, we got a meeting with. I actually reached out to anybody. I did a pitch and recorded the pitch on Zoom. I said, here's the deck. Here's also a recording of me going through the deck. Please review it. And then if you have interest, definitely set the meeting up. So this way, the investors were better prepared. They had specific questions to answer. And in the first meeting, we weren't starting from zero. They already had a good understanding of the company, the business, our culture. The first meeting was already becoming like a second meeting.
You've definitely realized that video is a form of acceleration in regards to bringing someone up to speed on a project. So do you think that these firms watched the pitch in completion, or do you think that there were certain slides that they were looking for?
Everybody I spoke to, I directly or indirectly made sure they'd seen the full presentation. I checked with them before the meeting, otherwise I would postpone the meeting. For the sake of everybody's time and sanity, I think it was efficient. And of course, I was tracking on the back end. I could see, right? We had a special password and all that. The presentation wasn't public. So we knew exactly and I would try to postpone the meeting if I felt someone wasn't prepared enough, just because otherwise the meeting's going to be a waste of time. So we were actually giving everybody what they needed in a very nicely organized package, which would make their lives easy.
Amazing. So you gave them everything that they needed for the sake of, having the most seamless communication. So you go from, 25 firms, you narrow it down, you have the conversations, what's the second week of, raising capital look like?
So we sent the video series that we'd created. I sent a pitch deck video. I also sent them a presentation that asked them to redeem a treat, right? So they could go through the SnackMagic experience and actually get a box, because it was very important for us for them to experience the product firsthand. Everybody who did that, we met with. By then, they already knew a lot about the business and they were doing their due diligence. They were talking to customers direct or indirectly. By the second half of the second week, we started hearing back in terms of they're interested, they wanted more people to talk to me or vice versa. So then I started setting up follow-up meetings with people who I thought were interested. Some people we invited to the hub in Long Island City so they could actually understand, exactly how we pick, pack, sort, box all the orders. So they actually were sporty enough to download the app and go through the whole process from beginning to end. So they actually packed a few boxes. So that made them understand exactly, what the secret sauce is in terms of how efficiently we can box these snack boxes and why our unit economics were actually so strong.
Using the app myself, I think that is almost an aha moment for an investor, because we speak about picking and packing snacks. It's pretty simple in essence to pick snacks, put them in a basket and put them in a box. But when you think about how you guys can do that at scale and turn out 4,000 boxes in a day, there's really a solid infrastructure of an application, both for the pickers, packers, and even for, the management at the hub to all use. That's definitely a major value as well.
SnackMagic is so simple on the front end, right? You see it's super simple. And a lot of complex stuff happens on the back end. Actually picking an order, you realize how simple we made it for anybody to just come in and start picking, and they're going to know the process without even us teaching them. And many investors got to experience that firsthand.
What were some of the most interesting angles that certain firms were coming at the opportunity with?
Another firm that was very, very bottom-up SaaS driven, where you're selling to businesses, but the way you're selling, it's very bottom-up. You start with any user who wants to treat his or her team, then it spreads within the organization, So they build product with that focus, where it's not usually business-to-business sales, is very top-down. You start with head or the CTO and then you come down. But bottom-up sales is where anybody at a company can start using your product, and then it spreads within the company.
Why does Craft's, approach fit with your 90-day plan?
I believe all the partners at Craft are founders. So that was something we really related to. And again, going back to what our goal was of teaming up with an institution, it was to accelerate our learning, right? First and foremost, not the capital necessarily, but just learning. So I thought, given that the team at Craft, they're all founders, they've scaled businesses, they understand product, they're very solid product people. They understand this virality that's built inside of the product better than anybody else, at least I've spoken to. So since the first meeting, actually, I was very, very interested in Craft, just because I knew we could learn a lot from them, just because of their experience and just the conversations we've had. There was the same wavelength we were both on. In a short period of time, we were able to talk about many things and get deeper into specific topics, which was very interesting. We knew mentally Craft would be our choice, but still we were fielding offers from others just to get a sense of, what is the valuation that people are putting on SnackMagic and how much. So we did receive a term sheet, but we said, we're still in meetings with other people, let us get back to you. And then once we had the term sheets we wanted, we wanted to hear back from 3 firms who we thought could be very good partners. We waited for all the term sheets to come in, and then that's when we negotiated the term sheet. And then, that was a good process, very transparent process. There were certain things that were important to them, there were certain things that were important to us. We were able to rationalize it, either they convinced us or we convinced them. It was a fun experience, we did that in one evening. Actually, we had 6-7 calls back to back. We did this, we said, they went back, we went back, We did it, and that same day, then we signed the term sheet.
Amazing. So when you speak about, everyone's or each firm's different approach and in regards to your valuation, I know that you
Yes.
said that it was, important, but it wasn't the crux of the conversation. It wasn't the most important. What was
Yes.
the range in the valuations, and what were like the different aspects why there would be variation?
Yeah. So valuation, the pre-money, the post-money is one thing. The structure of the board, like how many people would be on the board, who would be on the board. So that's, I think, the second criteria. The third criteria was we wanted some capacity for some of our current investors who wanted to invest. So how do we structure that? There were some secondaries, like people who'd invested in Stadium, like have been with our business for 7, 8 years now. We wanted some liquidity for them just because they'd backed us like when we had no idea. So we wanted to structure something where those investors, early investors, got to take a part of their money out who wanted to. Not many people did in the end, so I don't know how much it mattered. But that was one thing that was important to me, just because these are people I know I worked with. I wanted to at least give them the option to take out some money.
Really, you speak about raising the Series A as a form of acceleration for the business. So money's in the bank. The day to day is probably still the same. But what are your goals, this year, and how do we work with Kraft to fulfill both parties' goals?
The minute we signed the term sheet, we as a team switched gears like overnight, saying, okay, fine, let's stop thinking about fundraising. What has happened has happened. That's good. We did it. Now let's start planning our next move. Like for each area, what are we focusing on next 90 days? So we started doing our part. We ran it by Kraft, and they were giving us feedback, even though we had not officially signed all the documents, which was cool, And we started executing. There's no looking back because every day matters when you're growing so fast. And there were things that Kraft was going to help us with, which they already have. They've made like incredible introductions to firms we should be working with people we want to hire. Just today, they actually sent out SnackMagic to their entire portfolio team, which was very cool, just to get feedback.
So do you want to talk about the financials in this as well?
We closed the Series A. We took in like 15 million as part of our Series A. Kraft led it, and Luxor, who is our other investor, they've supported us through our Stadium days, also invested, and they were fantastic. One thing I should mention is, in addition to the contacts we had and people who'd reached out to me, like FJ Labs, which was our other investor, Luxor, they were very, very helpful in making introduction. And there were some VC firms who either approached us or we approached them, and we might have been a little late for them. They might be very early stage investors, but they were kind enough to make many, many introductions.
Amazing. So you guys secured the funding, the Series A from Kraft. You guys decide on the 90-day plan, what the priorities are. How did you go about announcing it to the public? Were there any exclusives with PR and things of that nature?
Yes. So this is one opportunity for every founder, to create a big splash on the PR side of things. And up until now, like one segment that we wanted to target was venture funded companies, because they could use SnackMagic to treat their teams. Up until now, we had that segment, but we were all sure we could do a lot more there. So then I think Kraft was gracious enough to lend their PR company to us. And together we came up with a plan where they were going to help announce it. So even though we had money in the bank, we did not officially announce it. We did not release any press release or anything like that. And we worked with their PR company, Dotted Line Communications. They're fantastic. And we came up with a plan on who would be that one publication we'd want to lead with. And we decided we wanted to do TechCrunch, only because we could, like all these companies that are in the Valley or anywhere in the US that are funded by venture capital firms would know of SnackMagic. So we did that. They approached TechCrunch on our behalf. And simultaneously, we also had our second and third and the next 15, 20 publications we wanted to reach out to straight after the announcement would come out. And then agreed to do an exclusive. So we gave TechCrunch the first dib on that. The article came out, today is Monday. It came out last Friday. Was the first time we announced it officially, and then straight after that article came out, our PR team and us, we reached out to everybody to let them know that it's public now. And since then, we've gotten a lot of mentions in different publications, I believe, Fortune, and then a lot on the CPG side, like Food Dive, and we have some interviews teed up this week. Like tomorrow, I'm talking to 3 other firms, and then next week, I'm talking to 2 other firms.
Advice for yourself 1 year ago, or maybe 6 months ago, because 1 year ago is a whole different world. But yeah, advice to yourself back in November.
It's important to be very efficient with the whole process because fundraising could take up a lot of time, and that is definitely takes away from the business, especially when the business is growing so fast. You don't want any distractions. So I think keeping it lean, efficient, very, very tight, buttoned up, and then making it the number one priority for those 3 weeks is important. Oftentimes, like founders, I've seen them do things specifically for investors. Like when they're making business decisions, they think, if I do this, investors are going to like it. If I do this, investors are going to. I think that's backward in my view. You got to start by building a solid business with solid foundation. That's something that's visible, tangible, you control. That's your first priority, no question. And then if you have strong fundamentals, strong unit economics, strong growth, everything else falls into place. I think when founders start their thought process by thinking, what do investors want? And I'll phrase it this way, and I'll pitch it as this story. That's, I think, when things get convoluted. So I think, my advice would be to keep it very clear, focus on the business, the basics, the fundamentals, get your business to a position where you don't even need funding, and then go out and raise money. And it's a very different dynamic.
Amazing. Cool. Well, thanks for that advice to all the fellow entrepreneurs who work in that, CPG delivery space. Until next time, we'll speak in a few weeks about maybe culture, team branding, or what the second month of the 90-day plan looks like. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of SnackBreak, a podcast by SnackMagic. In this episode, we spoke with Shaunak Amin, CEO of SnackMagic, to hear about the lessons he learned from fundraising his Series A earlier this year. In next week's episode, we'll be speaking with John Bronson, CEO and founder of Finger Licking Dutch, a company that imports stroopwafels from Holland and distributes across all 50 states. He has a lot to share on imported goods and innovation. See you then.